With this, we move to the next panel discussion that will be on insurance sector, reinventing customer engagement through business automation by insurance providers. And for that, again, we have eminent speakers, the digital transformation leaders from the insurance sectors here with us. Let me invite Mr. S.V. Sunder Krishnan, Chief Risk Officer, Reliance Nippon Life Insurance Company Limited. A huge round of applause for him, please. We welcome Mr. Sunder. Let me invite Mr. Jasmeet Singh, Chief Risk Officer, Reliance General Insurance. We welcome you, sir. We have with us Ms. Anjana Rao, Chief Strategy Officer, India First Life Insurance Company Limited. Anjana Rao, we welcome you. We have with us Priya Gilbile, Chief Operating Officer, ManipalCigna Health Insurance. We welcome you, ma'am. We have with us Mr. Abhishek Gupta, Chief Marketing Officer, Edelweiss Tokio Life Insurance. We welcome Mr. Abhishek. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have with us Mr. Ajesh Kumar, Assistant Vice President and Vertical Head, Customer Service, Bajaj Allianz General Insurance Company. Can we have more chairs on stage, please? And we have with us Mr. Yashesh Sampat, Senior Vice President and Head, Affinity and Association, Gallagher Insurance Brokers Private Limited. So you can also, it's a star-studded panel from the insurance sector. Let me hand over the session to Mr. Rajneesh, the consulting editor of APAC News Network. He'll be moderating this session. Over to you, Mr. Rajneesh.
Thank you, Shobik. So I think I'll stand here. That would be perhaps better. So as Shobik rightly mentioned, we have a very star-studded panel today. And what we would like to talk and focus on how basically digitization or automation is being used to reinforce the customer experience and customer engagement. For an insurance sector, perhaps we can break it up into three: customer acquisition, customer engagement, and then further enhancement of the customer experience. That we can break up the insurance life cycle maybe. And that's where what we are trying to focus on, how automation would help in each of these phases of the overall insurance life cycle. So the first question common to all the panelists, and I'll start with you, Sunder. What are the digital technologies that insurance companies are basically focusing on for enhancing their customer experience? That can be in terms of developing products, claims assessment, or whichever process, but one focus area, and maybe I would request each panelist to take 2 minutes on this and focus on one priority area where maximum automation or digitization is happening. Sunder.
Yeah. As you may be aware, the digital transformation is happening in BFSI space last 6-7 years. I think most companies or almost all companies have fallen into the digitization pathway. And so the acquisition now is faster. What used to be maybe many visits is probably faster in online real time if it's in online, and if it's not online, it's more assisted sale, assisted through digital devices. It could be a web camera, it could be a mobile, it could be an application, it could be a laptop. So the sales managers are better equipped, and acquisition happens faster in the sense that you're able to see the customer digitally. You're able to do video-based identification. You're able to do a video-based underwriting. MER reports are run, and with IoTs, you're able to even get various reports. So that's the acquisition route. It's faster. And on the customer side, of course, the customer has access to lots of information digitally. You're able to compare products, you're able to compare features, you're able to compare benefits, and you're able to choose the right product which you require for your needs. And this is also ensured through calling, telecalling the customer or video-based calling the customer, and ensuring that the customer is buying what actually the customer wants for a long term. And this is the key focus area. And there were lots of mis-selling complaints and apprehensions before, say 10 years back, which has been thwarted through digital acquisition and through various controls, video-based controls, and also through mobile controls, or where you are able to see the customer, whether the customer is healthy, and the needs are met, etc. So that's the change that has happened. And then once the customer is onboarded, then you have information about the customer through an identification system, through accesses to various databases, and then you're able to map the customer to a particular criteria, particular risk, particular region, and then you attend to the needs of the customer. So the delivery needs are also thought through well and met digitally. And that's the transformation that has happened in both acquisition and delivery routes. And then, of course, the persistency and propagation of the customer experience for long term. If it's a life insurance, if it's a general or health, it's a one-time purchase. Then also you have to tap back to the customer after the year if the need is there. And so all the three routes, acquisition, delivery, and persistency of the customer in all spheres is met digitally. Use of accesses to databases, lots of video surveillances, a lot of mobile surveillances, and the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other systems that are there are helping the cause of creating databases of customers. You're able to access database of customers from a repository, data repository, and then you're able to understand the needs of the customer, also behavior of the customer, also where the customer has gone, what kind of products the customer has bought. And so you're able to map all these elements digitally today through use of apps, through use of various resources, and through a very good scanning process. So what used to take months, what used to take days, and then what used to take probably hours is now instantly done. And that's the change that is digitalization has brought about. And on all angles, even on risk and compliance angles, because there is lots of video surveillance that happens now online, real time. I just bought a product of a private insurer, not my company, but was very pleasantly surprised. It was assisted sale through an agent, but there were SMS questions, and then there was a video surveillance.
We'll take that up
Sure.
the later round. So, as I requested, maybe each panelist, just one brief point. This is more as a starter, and we will take up the specific issues later. Jasmeet, I'll come to you next. One prioritization of the priority area in digitization that you feel insurance sector has done.
Okay, I think, so I'll just take it forward from where Sunder left. So I think, he's covered it exhaustively. But still, I think of 2 decades in the general insurance domain. The biggest thing, transformation, which I have really observed and we are experiencing on a daily basis is from a proposal form, which was manual, a manual cover note, to a, seamless process which has got created now. I think I would talk about primarily on the experience of the customer. Insurance always was seen as a push product, whereby you had an agent, you had a traditional model of selling, whereby, it was quite a number of visits which would have really taken to kind of conclude one deal. Look at the number of policies which are being underwritten now. It is practically impossible if you do not have a digital backup. And more so, I think, we should not just look at the acquisition part. I would also talk about, the end of part, which is primarily very, very important, for which the customer is actually engaging with you, is the claims experience. Now, none of us are in the business of insurance. We are all in the business of claims. Unless until we are able to justify and satisfy at the time of the need, I think everything else is futile. Whatever great we may do, if at the end of the day the customer does not get what he deserves, I think all processes, all digitalization has failed.
Exactly.
That's how we kind of see it. So I think, just kind of summarizing on the overall aspects in terms of initiatives, I think introducing a lot of bots. Now, today, bots is one technology which I think is overtaking a lot of things. Today, we have bots which kind of take care of end-to-end seamless transition. We have pre-underwritten stories in case if somebody's got a pre-existing disease, hypertension, diabetes. Earlier, it used to be a laundry list of medical tests to do to kind of really get a customer onboarded. Today, we have absolutely no manual intervention. It's a website. You go, there are, just fill in the details, whatever pre-existing diseases you have. The system will auto-calculate the loadings in case if any, will give you the pricing. You are through, you can buy the policy and you are covered for your pre-existing as per the limitation period, so on and so forth. So I think the mindset is absolutely changing in terms of the overall transition, the way, the insurance sector is really moving forward to.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Anjana, next I'll come to you. Your priority focus.
Sure. Am I audible? Okay. So I would concur and echo with my co-panelists here. So use of mobile technology for, so we all spoke about assisted sales. Assisted sales now is, I would say most of the insurance companies have a paperless acquisition process, and that is because of use of mobile technology, building most of the forms on the handheld devices and empowering the sales. And almost everybody has come up with robust sales platform, which is empowering the field sales and is also helping the customer experience to be, enhanced. Extending that to the back-end processes, the whole focus has been as to how do I go ahead with a zero ops kind of a design and making sure that underwriting decision, why should it happen after the proposal gets submitted? Why can't it happen at the point of sale? So again, that is another transformation.
Okay.
And customer engagement was always there. I think coupling customer engagement with data to make it more personalized or hyper-personalized has been the shift in focus.
Okay, so the paperless customer acquisition. Priya, next, I'll come to you. And in terms of the preferred approach for insurance companies as far as digital transformation is concerned, maybe if I ask you to highlight one key focus area there.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you to APAC News Network and the August gathering here. Great pleasure to be here. Today's age and time, the era is about customer equity. Gone are the days where the consumer is going to compare us for a particular category, for a particular industry, and then have expectations. It's about comparing with the best possible service, delivery across various sectors, and that's where consumer focus and innovation around that and digitization of the entire back-end and front-end operations, as Anjana mentioned, not only selling digitally paperless, but also servicing. That's going to be a very important focus areas for all of us as insurers. And most importantly, there's a lot of innovation and, liberalization, as we know, the regulator is coming up with. With that, product innovation, creating digital ecosystem and creating a connected, network to really fulfill those needs in the vogue of, simplified and ease of service for the consumer is the most important aspect that we all are focusing upon and trying and, driving innovation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next, Abhishek, your priority.
In addition to what my fellow panelists have said, I will just touch upon one topic. In life insurance industry, specifically to life insurance, more than 85% of sales happen what we call as assisted selling. That means there is somebody who is assisting customers in taking up the required plan. And most of the time, this assistance is in form of a physical person, what we typically call as an agent, or it's a bank employee or somebody else. And most of these people have been used to selling insurance by meeting the customers face-to-face. And suddenly the pandemic actually threw that face-to-face interaction out of the equation. So one major shift that the entire life insurance industry did, assisted hugely by technology, is how do I shift these people? How do I shift their mindset? That is number one. And number two is how do I enable them so that they are able to service the customers, handle the customers in a digital mode. So a lot of focus from life insurance industry, including our organization, has been done in creating tools, in creating infrastructure for these people, because ultimately, while we are talking about offering a superior consumer experience, these people are the carriers of those experience.
Sure.
So what we have done and the industry has done is enable these people, and their tech has really helped us.
Okay, that's again the overall, I may say, if we look at the overall insurance ecosystem, they are one of the important stakeholders in there, and sort of you are by through means of automation empowering them further. Ajesh, I'll come to you next. Again, your point of view.
Sure. Good morning. I guess pretty much everyone has summed it up. Just to start with, the goal is to meet customers' expectation, which has also evolved. All this while when we saw this digital transformation. In our previous panel discussion, Mr. Murthy touched upon millennials and Gen Z coming as our customers. Their expectation is totally different. So how do we meet their expectation? Obviously, digital is the new era. But if I just step behind and think, what attributes to, or rather what are my value drivers for this digital transformation would be: one, scalability and sustainability. We've often seen, the solution getting changed within a year. That should not be the case. When I say scalable, don't think of, your customer base as on today. Think of your customer base 10 years down the line. Your system should be scalable, sustainable, of course. And second point is the speed and agility. We have seen in last 2 years in pandemic, many companies have met their digital, targets, which was, met to be, or rather planned to be met in 5 years. They met in 1 year. The third one for me would be the cost. The technology which you adopt should not hit your P&L very hard. So obviously your ROI should be in less than a year. I would sum it up with a use case what we do in our company. So we have something called as motor OTS. So in case customer meets with an accident, and what they have to do is just go to our app, update the details, click some photos, and just submit. What the app AI engine does is, it analyzes the entire piece. It gives, and with the help of AI and photogrammetry, it gives a code to customer. Customer agrees the code, the claim gets settled in 20 minutes. Like Mr. Sunder mentioned, what was like weeks, days, now happens within like hours, or rather minutes. 20 minutes claim settlement from the time the accident is done. That's the kind of, digitalization has helped us in today.
Okay. Yashesh, I'd like to talk a little bit on the intermediaries and that aspect very briefly. If you can mention the focus on digitization, what has happened.
Thanks, APAC News Network, for inviting. It's a very interesting topic for the panel discussion, and especially COVID brought about a revolution in the way digitally insurance has been distributed, more of general insurance. And predominantly the so-called insurtech or the broker tech players in India and insurance companies also really upgraded themselves to make the purchase and the ease of convenience very, very simple for the end consumer. In COVID times, where the entire country was thinking whether we should have any insurance or not, sitting within your homes, you could buy a policy within minutes. To add to it, as my colleagues from general insurance industry mentioned, the experience in general insurance had been more of a consumer had to chase a company, chase his intermediary for the claims, and then run from pillar to post, which was a story few years back. But now, due to the digitalization of insurance, and especially the intermediaries also have heavily invested in bringing upon systems, technologies which allow even a tier 3 or a tier 4 consumer who does not understand the I to E of insurances, also in the most simplest way, to submit his documents and get the claims, whether it be a health claim, whether it be a motor claim in 20 minutes, 10 minutes, or few minutes. And I think the way forward, in fact, couple of days back, there was a big summit of IRDAI in Bangalore, where the IRDAI chairman also mentioned that technology will play a very, very big role to make India 100% insurance wish list by 2047. And there are a lot of regulations which have just come up, which are favoring intermediaries and insurers to come up with more of ease of buying, of convenience of products, and making even embedded insurances very much a true reality in India.
Okay. Thank you. In fact, some of these regulation and compliances will take up in one of the subsequent rounds. Now, I'll come to one important aspect of it is, one, the accuracy of the claims processing itself. One, how can technology help, is helping in enhancing that accuracy. And one is accuracy and other is the timeliness. In a lot of cases, what happens is the claims, the timeliness. So in terms of timeliness and accuracy, how can technology help in this claims processing that in any case will help in customer experience enhancement? Yes, please go ahead.
So I think what has happened is the use of analytics actually to treat claims. If I remember rightly, 8 or 10 years back, the settlement ratio was lesser, 93 or something like that, or even 86, 87. And now today, our settlement ratio is 99. And the TATs have reduced, and it's much faster settlement. I think the change is because of use of digitization, use of assets, use of data. And so with analytics, we're able to prove that this is the customer who is met with the, who has the problem or the claim to be, death claim maybe. And so you're able to connect to the customer's database, you're able to place the customer, you're able to connect the family, you're able to connect the nominee, and it's much faster. The investigations are much faster if it is early claim. And early claims also were very high and it's come down. Due to study 35%, now it's come down to 12-13%. So things have improved on the claims front a lot because of use of digitization and use of analytics and use of databases of repositories. So faster investigation, faster reach to customer, faster claim settlement process, speedier process, and more claims settled. Exactly. From 85 or 93 to now 99. So this transformation I've actually seen last 8 years or so. Okay. If you 8 or 7 years back, we had lots of frauds. The claim ratio used to be 180%, 200%, and 230, and things like that in various products, different products. Then we used analytics. We removed dead man insurance. Dead man was a big problem. So the moment we got the biotech or fingerprint or something of the customer, we were able to see the customer when the customer had taken the policy and then had captured photographs, etc. So dead man insurance was removed automatically. Then there was a problem of higher age, people with 85 being insured as 65 or 64. We had problems on that, and then we had problems on the sickness, people with cancer being insured or something like that, but not disclosed beforehand to the insurance company. So slowly with the use of analytics, we have ensured that through regression, we find out customers who are fraudulent and cancel the policies much beforehand. And therefore the settlement ratio gets better at the claim side. And it's much faster and speedier and happier. So
I understand. So it also helped in reducing the churn. So this is an open question. Anyone in the... Yes, sir.
So I think...
Yes, he's adding after that, you please take it up. Yeah.
So I think, again, I'll give a perspective on the general insurance aspect where you have a bouquet of products. So, unlike maybe, a human being or a health or a, death or a PA kind of a claim, you have, marine, you have fire, you have liability, and so on and so forth. So the challenge with the GI industry, which used to be, when we talk about the claims experience and really seamlessly how we've kind of done the transition, I'll touch on 3 parts. One is, your frauds and exaggeration. So I would little keep them little different. So an exaggeration is something whereby, for example, that, I had some scratches, some damages on my car, and there's an accident which is, say, there's a frontal impact, and I try to kind of cover up my side, damages or back damages or some other unrelated damages along with that claim. So, those kind of things used to really kind of take a different kind of dimension earlier, when the physical surveyor used to go really see, and I think my fellow colleague mentioned, whereby, now it is just that you click the photograph, we have an AI tool, the tool can actually run with the narration that in a single impact, which all parts of the car can really get damaged and which really cannot get damaged in this kind of an accident. So you can exclude those immediately and educate the customer that maybe if he wants that to be covered, it's a separate claim. Maybe if he has missed to inform in the past and he's been a renewal customer, a long-time relationship, that again gets looked upon case-to-case basis. On the health side, I think what we've done very, very exclusively is we've done a nano micro management with data analytics. So today, we get a lot of pharmacy bills, we'll get a lot of hospital bills. We've made it so seamless that, the biggest challenge in a health claim is when you go to the hospital, you have a cashless treatment, everything is there, or even if it is a reimbursement, the documentation part really takes a lot of time. And for a customer, it becomes very difficult, that whether I focus on my patient who's kind of lying there or I really run after the documentation part of the hospital and the insurance company. So what we've done is, at least which is an ongoing process, and we are integrating with the hospitals that, there's a seamless document flow and the customer has zero role to play in. And within minutes and hours, you can kind of, give approvals and move forward. And the system is intelligent enough to do nano scoring modeling, which typically means that you have an illness, what are the typical medications which should be prescribed, which will get critically monetized that, okay, this, suppose I am a flu patient and maybe a cancer medicine is being given to me, it will immediately highlight that this medicine is not related to this treatment. So there is something wrong, then there's a trigger, and then, eventually it flows into the investigation buckets and so on and so forth. So I think, intention is very clearly that the genuine customers should not suffer, and obviously the fraudsters should not be given a leeway to kind of take advantage. So data analytics really plays a very, very fundamental role in controlling these aspects.
Okay, so the importance of analytics, yeah, Priya.
I just wanted to add to what Jasmeet mentioned. As a health insurance company, I represent the health, segment. Our prerogative is to really have seamless claims and instant claim processing and accurate claim processing and timeliness, as you mentioned. These are the core competence or core service levels a customer would be expecting when he or she buys insurance. Now, talking about Indian health insurance and health ecosystem, unfortunately, the data is not digitized. You have a complex, process of documentation, bill digitization, and thereby followed with adjudication. So, basically, there is a lot of innovation happening in the industry. There is standardization norms being set. There is a company or a body being set for an electronic data interface, like the West, where you have digitized billing input. You have digitized claim processing adjudication protocols. Both are married with analytics and scoring models, and basis that you have instant decision making.
If I may interrupt. What's interesting to know, if we look at the IT maturity curve of insurance and healthcare, there's a vast gap. Insurance is definitely much higher on the IT maturity curve, and unfortunately our healthcare system is not, the hospitals is not. That's perhaps one of the reasons why that documentation, the timing and everything don't match.
I would say innovation and digital, advancement is happening on both sides, but it is not in sync with the common objective, right? Healthcare is innovating and there's a lot of disruption happening on that side as well. Their prerogative is customer, focused. How do you really marry the two and have, a common play and a common ground is what is important.
Another challenge in that marriage between the two, won't it be the regulations? Again, there are, both the sectors are heavily regulated.
So as you know, there is no healthcare regulator in India. That's one of the biggest area, that the country needs to focus upon. While there is a, health insurance regulator, however, mandating certain rules and guidelines on the hospitals and healthcare providers because very, very tough. So coming back to the point on timeliness and accuracy, like the West, those are areas and protocols being defined. And as some of the fellow colleagues were mentioning, we have come up, ManipalCigna as a company, we've come up with a, fraud rule engine and machine learning model, where you basically, our prerogative is to pay all genuine claims as per contract, as fastest as possible and as accurate as per the term of the contract. So with this, scoring model, you really delineate the one where there is propensity of, abuse and fraud, and the ones which are genuine, and fast track the genuine payments. Similar to that, Jasmeet mentioned, I think, about small pharmacy bill. You have OPD, kind of mechanism. So how do you really get that whole complexity of billing, adjudication and digital entry? And how do you really automate it is really the answer. Some of us have actually put in a rule engine and based on, back-end data scoring regression model, where certain protocols, certain surgeries, certain, clinical guidelines can be straight passed through and instantly the claim is paid, the moments we get the, adjudication request from the hospital. So those are, innovations that are happening in the industry. And with that, we should address that, kind of requirement of timeliness of claim as well as accuracy. I just wanted to add that bit.
Sure. So anyone would like to add? Yes, Anjana.
From a life insurance perspective. So in life insurance, the primary challenge, I would say, so while you can put in all the efforts to fast track whenever a claim gets notified, how do I scrutinize the documents without any wait period? But one challenge which we face even today, which we are trying to overcome, but that will happen only when, like, a death certificate. A death certificate today is not standardized, it's not digitized. So, even if you want to automate, you need to have some manual intervention where you need to read through the death certificate, you need to understand whether it is a genuine document, not a genuine document, and then process. Otherwise, the whole intent is the process is whenever a claim notification comes in, how quickly can I, so use of bots to read, minimize the wait time. After a claim is processed, how instantly without a wait, how the money can hit the bank account. The wait time is where claims go for the due diligence bucket or reading the death certificates. So that is one area which is still a struggle, is what I would say.
Okay. So let's take up another issue on the, we talked about data compliance. Another issue is the data privacy, especially, and we know there are still a lot of ambiguities in Indian context, unlike in developed countries. The privacy is very, but for insurance industry, the privacy thing has to be taken care of. So what are the primary challenges as far as conforming to compliances and the data privacy is concerned, and how are insurance companies looking to handle it? Yes, sir.
So the expectations from a privacy regulation is that you sensitize the customer, how you're going to use the information that the customer has supplied, one. Two, you inform the customer in advance to which parties or partners or vendors you're going to transfer the information of the customer. Three, you inform the customer in advance when you would destroy the data of the customer. Four, the consent, what the currently is for being followed is just a tick in a application form where we have these clauses and the customer ticks that clauses or signs that clauses. Sometimes even signatures are in the end of the form. So customer doesn't clearly understand what is he consenting to, what is the undertaking that he is signing. Because at the end of the day, the salesman says, you sign here and then that's it. He gives the check. So he or she gives the check. So the whole process of consent seeking will go elaborate. So with digitalization, you could actually give pictures, you could actually give symbols, you could actually give examples of how the customer data is going to be used, to which vendors it's going to be passed, for how long the data is going to be kept, and how the company would inform the customer every stage that yes, I'm transferring the data that you have given me to this vendor for this purpose. Hope you do not have an objection. Because customer can change his or her mind later also. So this is the whole privacy process. And this process would have to be elaborate, demonstrated, evidenced in terms of documentation. So the documentation requirement would go up a lot. You will have to couple that with digitization where you explain the customer the process clearly with diagrams, illustrations and things like that. And at each stage, you'll have to inform the customer through SMS, email, and other means to ensure that customer is understood what is being done with the information that the customer has given.
Thanks.
And so this is the change.
Anyone would like, yes, Yashesh.
So I will say that first, foremost thing is winning the trust of the consumer to make him share his data. Because that's the biggest mindset issue of an Indian consumer today, that if I'm giving my data, I'll be bombarded with n number of calls and SMSs and emails for people pushing for insurance, which unfortunately is not the case, but for few intermediaries who go overboard. Secondly, it is very important today for a consumer, whether it's a corporate today in our business of insurance broking, there are strict and stringent NDAs which we execute with our partners, our corporate customers, where confidential data of names, spouses, their salaries, their designations, and some ailments, prior histories are being shared. And that is something which today any corporate would be very, very particular that if he has to share it, it is not being misused because these are extremely confidential data. Secondly, in terms of the right data of an end consumer to come, it is very important, either it's an individual customer or a corporate, to make him understand that by giving the right sort of data, you are only going to help yourself when the moment of claim arises. Because at that moment, if you don't have his genuine email ID, you don't have his genuine mobile number, and you have just the corporate HR or the intermediaries mobile number, which today still is a practice in India. Intermediaries still prefer to give their own email IDs and phone numbers to be contacted to protect their renewal. If we try to break that myth and make a consumer share his right data and educate to him how his experience at the claim will be better, I think that will be one of the biggest challenges for us all into the insurance sector to make it possible.
Okay, thanks.
I just wanted to add to it, with the account aggregators coming in, while it is a very safe and secure form, consent-based, seeking customers' consent before sharing the data with any of the information users, so to say, how much is the customer aware of the account aggregator as an entity, and hence driving some awareness with the customers that, this entity is there and this is here to safeguard your data. That socialization has to happen so that they don't mind giving a consent to share the data.
Sure. Yeah, Abhishek.
Abhishek, I'll take this one. So Abhishek and we have worked closely together in our Edelweiss stint and his earlier stint also, where Abhishek was heading a mobile store business, of India. And that was one of the biggest challenges which I and Abhishek were trying to solve way back when no digitalization of insurance claims and all had started in India 2014-15. And we were doing the mobile insurances businesses for mobile store in India. And the biggest challenge was that end consumer never used to know the terms and conditions which he used to buy the insurance from the outlet. And the right set of data awareness to educate to him about what the policy is covering and where he has to go and claim for his simple 4,000-5,000 rupees mobile claim was one of the key things which we could solve together. And the customer satisfaction index was at the level best in India after we tried to educate and create awareness that how to claim, what your policy covers, and what it does not cover.
I'm not sure if that awareness has still improved, maybe improved since 2014-15, but still, I don't know how many people read the fine print.
No, nobody does, but I think, thanks Yashesh for taking back to those days. Yes, you are right, nobody reads terms and conditions, and therefore, there's tendency on the on the companies like insurers or anybody else to probably de-risk themselves by hiding behind those terms of conditions. So that exists. Coming back to the point that you asked about data privacy, as life insurance companies, we have access to the most sensitive data of the customer. One is the financial data and second is the health data. These are the two most sensitive information. You know, the best way, or probably I'm not sure it's the best way, but what we try to do is, number one is encrypt that data so that it is not accessible internally also, and to very select few people within the organization. Second, yes, there are a lot of security measures built in that data doesn't leak out. However, at the same time, it is in line with what I talked about earlier, that a lot of insurance selling is done by third party, which are the distributors. So a lot of work needs to be done on sensitization. While we are talking about technology, we are talking about the various tools which are available, I think it's a culture that to respect the data that the consumer has entrusted you with. And there I still think there's a lot of ground to be covered,
That's a cultural issue, I'm sure, throughout India. That's there. Okay, so we'll take up another point, and again, maybe I'll start with you, Ajesh. In terms of, we are talking about, which Abhishek just mentioned, sensitizing, and then the third-party players are also coming, so the whole distributor ecosystem. Now, this whole ecosystem in an insurance, there are still some legacy infrastructure. In some cases, a lot of insurance companies have built their own digital platforms. And in some cases, there are technology solution providers they are partnering with and using. So what's the preferred mode, or is it a hybrid mode that is working? How are the things shaping up?
Okay. So as per me, it will depend on the company dynamics and your business case or a use case, what you want to drive. For me, if you ask me, it will be a mix of two, which is you take a standard package and then customize and personalize it as per your business case. You know, the benefit what you will get out of this is, since it's a standard package, one is it is tried and tested. Okay. Second benefit what you get is that you know, the risk or the speed in which it can be implemented. Since this has been implemented in a lot of places, your speed becomes key. You can get it implemented soon. Third is the cost. Since it's not a proprietary system and it's a standard package, you know, the cost gets shared between different insurers, so you get a better deal.
Okay. Yes.
So I think, you know, this is a question which has to be seen in perspective. I think a large organization, a startup, a small organization, a mid-sized organization, I think the strategy would really depend on what scale you are in. Now, there are organizations which are existing for 20 years, who've created their own data warehouses and, you know, everything in-house and, you know, like VK on-premise servers and everything. Now, immediately kind of moving on to, say, a cloud, you know, may not be the right strategy, because at the end of the day, you invested so much of cost. And at the end of the day, you also have to kind of, you know, bring in a better hybrid structure whereby the obsolescence has to be taken care of. You can't really run with obsolete systems as well. So I think, you know, it's a transition, it's a journey whereby certain things you will always want to keep on-prem and certain you would obviously want to go on cloud. Certain applications which you will have to kind of outsource, like say SAP and stuff, which have really kind of overtaken the markets, and you know, it's more like a standard software which has got created. But on the application side, say from a customer experience or from your own digitalization perspective, you may want to, you know, kind of develop your own applications, your own systems to bring in, again, exclusivity, A, to your proposition, B, I think, you know, speed and accuracy is again a debatable topic, but when you're developing it in-house, you've got better controls to kind of get speedy deliveries and better controls. But again, you'll have to see the risk-reward performance. Okay. I mean, it should not be so that you're investing so much of money that eventually the returns are not something which justify. So I think it's more like a mixed strategy, which will depend organization to organization.
Balance between outsourcing and on-premise. Yeah, Priya.
Yeah, just to add to what you know, everybody has mentioned, And clearly, it's a combination, it's a hybrid. So you have legacy systems and you have your own experience and expertise garnered over years that you've developed. Building on that, but at the same time, keeping pace with what innovation is happening in the industry, what are the newer use cases, trying and learning, and maybe using those utilities. And third most important thing is the ecosystem. So if at all people have expertise and there are large innovations, a lot of innovation happening by the startups and fintechs, insurtechs. So how do you really use their services to really complement your own in-house homegrown IT systems and technology? Maybe a hybrid, off-the-shelf buy, at the same time connecting it through the, ecosystem. A combination is the real answer, and risk and reward, most importantly. And most importantly, again, how is the consumer, how are you solving the consumer problem through all of this? Because it has to be not inside out, but outside in at the end of the day for you to really run your businesses.
Sure.
I agree completely with Priya. So it's all about what is the business problem that you want to solve. And whether it is a product or whether it is going to be bespoke comes later on. What's the problem that you want to solve with which technology? So there's so many emerging technologies. Not everybody has a canned out-of-the-box product available. So let's say one wants to experiment with voice as an interface. How many players would have voice as a product available? If it is there, I mean, some players have worked on maybe outbound automation or whatever. So what I'm trying to say is it is not going to be always a straight-jacketed answer. There is a technology, you have a use case. Whosoever is going to give you the best outcome for your use cases, that makes it unique. And again, yeah, so those are the nuances which need to be taken into consideration.
Okay, so before we conclude, I'll start from that side. From Yashesh, 1 minute to each panelist. Again, looking ahead for the next couple of years, maybe one focus which you feel the insurance industry is bound to have in automation. One priority focus in the next couple of years. Briefly, 1 minute.
The main focus, according to me, for insurance industry would be to cover two main aspects. One is on the distribution of the insurance products, how more effectively it can reach to the lower end of the pyramid, that is below poverty lines or poverty lines, and get that basic necessity data from them to give them that insurance benefit. Although we have mass national insurance schemes in India ongoing, but execution of that is still a very big challenge in India to give the benefit in absence of relevant data for an insurer to underwrite. And second would be in terms of the claims management, including fraud controls, how insurance industries uses technologies so that the fraud aspects which are still prevalent in many of the industries or product areas in life or non-life get minimized or eliminated, and the experience of the claim and the tag for settlement, which generally is always a consumer who looks to after I submit my document, I'll get my claim in X number of days or Y number of days, how it is brought down to a single digit or a few hours in India.
Okay, Ajesh.
So if I have to mention that in one line, the theme this year which we are driving is, digital at the fore and human at the core. So digital for sure, we want to take it forward. So when all of them mentioned about self-service and, doing it by yourself. So that is something which we are driving this year, but at the same time not, deviating from the human angle. So it will be an hybrid model. But yeah, we are also looking at, do we really want to eliminate all our touch points? Where I empower my customer to an extent that right from buying, servicing and claims, they can do it by themselves.
Okay, great. Sunder.
I think industry would have to get together on the database side. So we need to have more data on the repositories in terms of, again, somebody said death certificate. So death certificate automation, legal automation again. We still have some automation in the legal side. We get to see the cases when the cases come up. So the digital connectivity that you need across the infrastructure, right from customer side till the death certificate, till after service and the legal cases. Everything is connected digitally. It's happening already. It's just that in the database side, we don't have a big insurance company contributing. On the certificate side, we have pockets of automation, but we have also lots of manual registers being maintained. Same the court cases side, we have digitally automated it, but still we have manual aspects happening. I think once the digital connectivity across the network is done, then I think there will be better coverage for poor people. I know you get standard products for the poor and you cover them. So that's what would happen.
Jasmeet.
I think I'll, maybe break it into, say, a short-term strategy and probably a long-term, which probably we get to see. Now, I'm sure everybody would have heard about the new regulations of use and file. So you are going to really see the transformation in the product lines really in the general insurance domain, and more so with the insurtechs coming in. I think, the choices for the customer are really going to change, and I'm sure each organization has to introspect and really bring in that kind of a speed in terms of bringing in the products which are exciting to the customers, A. B, I would talk about from a larger perspective, which maybe I do not see on an immediate basis, but this has to happen. We need to have fraud control bureaus in the country now. I think, today when we look at the crimes, in terms of the insurance-specific crimes, we do not really have, we have the same machinery. You go to the police authorities and probably you kind of get the cases investigated. Unlike a EOW or a specialized wing or an SIT, which is getting created. But I think a fraud control bureau would really bring about, because with all these transformations digitally, frauds are also going to enhance. And to really cater to them, I think that would be the key.
Thanks. Anjana.
Sure. So the focus for us is going to be more on hyper-personalization to discover micro segments so that we can target customized products to that segment, be it customer engagement, again, or customer service, how personalized engagements can we derive by making use of the data which we already have.
Priya.
Yeah, so critical 4 areas. Number 1, a lot of innovation and liberalization, as most of us mentioned from a regulatory standpoint. Using that and really creating, products for every segment, and very, very easy, simplified, very, non-jargon based products being created. That's the focus. Aligned to that, an ecosystem, digitally, kind of from a digital fulfillment standpoint, and ease of use. That's going to be critical for us. Second, how do you really help the consumer self-service and make it absolutely seamless? But while you automate all the touch points, humanizing the areas which really need, care and attention. So health insurance is all about, critical events. At that point, a machine talking to the consumer is not going to help. So those touch points continue to be humanized, continue to be really dealt with a lot of empathy, love, compassion. And at the same time, trying and innovating and trying and engaging from a churn management and, basically persistency and continuity standpoint, and how do you really give that value to the consumer? These are the areas that we're focusing upon. And of course, automation on claim and fraud management remains a focus area, because that hinges on how do you really deliver on the trust deficit that the Indian consumer has in insurance, I would say. Thank you.
Thanks. Abhishek.
I think the peril of being the last to speak, कि सब कुछ तो सबने बोल दिया. But in addition to all of these 2-3 areas that I would mention is, number 1 is, while yes, business is important as life insurers, it is also our moral duty to ensure that consumers get adequate protection. So the adequacy of protection is what, as a mission to the life insurance company, I think that is critical. To add to that, how do we do that? So number 1 is, when we call it the focus area, is doing a complete need analysis, but the need analysis needs to be done completely digitally. And when I'm saying need analysis, it is not just superficial, it is down to the last detail of the consumer, so that you actually are covering the absolute needs of the customer, not just protection, but also savings and wealth build-up, and last is retirement. So that is what I call as adequacy of insurance.
The detailed need analysis.
Yes. So second part is, which is very critical again for life insurance companies, what we call as instant issuance. There's a lot of underwriting involved. So how do we can enable the front mile to be the first level underwriters and then the second level underwriters at our organization level so that we can issue a seamless issuance experience to customer. That is the second part. And third part, I think it was briefly touched upon, is the dataverse. Currently, unfortunately, because of legacy systems, because of changes in the system, and that is across the organizations, everybody has this problem, the data seem to be resides at various pockets. How do we get all the data in one place so that there is one source of truth? It is very sounding that it should be done. Unfortunately, it is not. So I think that is the focus.
Okay, thanks. So, in fact, there's paucity of time. Otherwise, the discussion, there were, I think, a couple of other points which we would like to deliberate. Great. Anyway, I would thank all the panelists. And before we disperse, we would like to hand over a Financial Leadership Award to each of you. And may I request Sanghamitra Mohanty to come on stage to hand over the Leadership Award to our esteemed panelists today. So, first, Sunder, SB Sunder. Jasmeet Singh.